Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about tonsils. What exactly are tonsils? They're basically round fleshy masses and they're found in four different locations. They're basically aggregates of lymphoid tissue and they help to filter out germs that enter through either your nose or through your mouth while inhaling, right? So they basically protect the rest of your body from infection. So, for example, these are the four locations where your tonsils are present: pharyngeal tonsils, then you have tubal tonsils, then you have palatine tonsils, and you have lingual tonsils. So if you're inhaling air either through your nose or through your mouth and it carries germs in it, so there are high chances if it goes in, it can cause any sort of infection. In order to prevent that, your body has tonsils. These are basically part of your immune system and the aggregates of your lymphoid tissue. They basically function as lymph nodes, so they catch or trap any of those germs, right? And again, so here's another definition: the tonsils are a set of lymphoid organs facing into the aerodigestive tract, which is known as Wilder's tonsillar ring, and consists of adenoid tonsil, pharyngeal tonsil, two tubal tonsils, two palatine tonsils. So one is adenoid tonsil, two pharyngeal, sorry, one is adenoid, two tubal, two palatine, and one lingual tonsil. So these play important role in the immune system. Now, this entire ring, it is known as the Walder's ring. In terms of the book, they're saying that in relation to the naso-oropharyngeal isthmus, there's several aggregations of lymphoid tissue that constitute Wilder's lymphatic ring. Now let's look at this image from the Netter Atlas. This is the pharyngeal tonsil, which is right below the sphenoid bone, right? And the sphenoidal sinus. Here you have the sphenoidal sinus. Here there'll be frontal sinus somewhere here. This is your nose. These are your conchi. So right behind your nasal cavity and inferior to the sphenoidal sinus, you'll have this nasopharyngeal tonsil, also known as adenoids when it gets inflamed. Here, this is Taurus tubarius. This is basically pharyngeal opening of the auditory or eustachian tube. Here you'll have uh, tonsils of the tube or tubal tonsils. And here, this is the soft palate. Here you'll have this is the soft palate. Here you'll have the palatine tonsil, and this is the tongue. Right at the posterior part of the tongue, you'll have lingual tonsils. So we've covered the four tonsils. This is the first, then second, then third, then fourth. So these aggregates, they form a ring. Now, they're saying that the most important aggregation are right and left palatine tonsils, which are basically usually referred to simply as tonsils. So if a lot of people just say tonsils, so if you hear simply the word tonsils, they're basically referring to palatine tonsils. Posteriorly and above there is nasopharyngeal tonsil. So posteriorly and above there is nasopharyngeal tonsil, and laterally and above there are tubal tonsils, and inferiorly there is lingual tonsil, right? So this is basically entire circular ring is formed by the pharyngeal tonsil, tubal tonsil, palatine tonsil, and lingual tonsil. This is known as Valdeir's ring or Valdeir's ring, right? Now talking about palatine tonsils. Now what exactly is a palatine tonsil? Tonsil is the Latin word that means swelling. Now here, the palatine tonsil, it occupies this region called tonsillar fossa. Now, tonsillar fossa, this is a palatine fossa. This is basically triangular. There's basically a triangular fossa. In this lies your palatine tonsil, and this is known as palatine fossa. So the interior border of it is the palatoglossal arch, and the posterior border is the palatopharyngeus arch. Palatopharyngeus arch is made up of the palatopharyngeus muscle, and the palatoglossal arch is made up of the palatoglossus muscle, right? So that's what is very important for you to know. Here you can see in this diagram, the one in front is the platoglossal arch. The one at the back is the palatopharyngeal arch. This is uvula, and then right in the middle you'll see there is palatine fossa or tonsillar fossa. In that you'll have palatine tonsil. Now, sorry. Tonsil is almond shaped. It has two surfaces. It has two surfaces. Let me just make it clear from here. This is the medial surface, then the lateral surface. And then it has two borders. One is the interior border, what you see from here. One is the posterior border. And then it has two poles, an upper pole and a lower pole. Now, your palatine tonsil basically lies between your palatopharyngeal arch and the palatoglossal arch. And its medial surface is covered by stratified squamous epithelium. Which epithelium? Stratified squamous epithelium. Remember that? Squamous, right? Epithelium. Now, the medial side, it has a lot of clefts, or you can say crypts. There are almost 12 to 15 crypts. And the crypt that's the deepest or the largest, that's called intratonsillar cleft. This one, intratonsillar cleft. Now, towards the lateral side, towards the lateral side, this tonsil, it's covered by a sheet of fascia, which is known as hemicapsule of palatine tonsil, hemicapsule of the tonsil. Now, this hemicapsule, it's basically derived from the pharyngobasilar fascia. Here you can see the pharyngobasilar fascia. So medially, what did I tell you? It's covered by stratified squamous epithelium, and then it has 12 to 15 crypts. The largest, so the deepest one is called or known as intratonsillar cleft, and laterally it has a hemicapsule. That hemicapsule is derived from the pharyngobasilar fascia. Now, it is loosely attached to the muscular wall of pharynx. Now, the muscular wall of the pharynx, the posterior wall of the pharynx, is formed by the constrictor muscles and the styloglossals. So, this is loosely attached to the posterior wall of the pharynx, right? But anteriorly, it is so posteriorly it's very loosely attached to the posterior wall of pharynx, but interiorly it's firmly adherent to the side of the tongue. So anteriorly it's very firmly adherent to the side of the tongue, and posteriorly it's loosely attached to the posterior wall of the pharynx, which is made up of the constrictor muscles and the styloglossus muscle, right? And anteriorly it's adherent firmly to the side of the tongue by, very important word, suspensory ligament of tonsil. So this is the suspensory ligament of tonsil that adheres it tightly. Suspensory ligament of tonsil attaches capsule of tonsil to the side of the tongue, keeps the tonsil in place during swallowing. Very important. This is what I was basically saying. And this is the hemicapsule, which is extension of the pharyngobasilar fascia. Why is it called hemicapsule? See, it doesn't cover the entire capsule. It just covers it, half of it. So it's hemicapsule. And it's green in color, hence it's basically a fascia. And it's derived from which fascia? Pharyngobasilar fascia. Right? Now moving on, so far, what have I told you? That a tonsil is a Latin word that means swelling. Other than that, I told you that the palatine. If you just talk about the word tonsil, it means we are referring to the palatine tonsil. What are we referring to? The palatine tonsil, the one right here, right? And before that, I told you that this is the uh, oropharynx isthmus, this is the nasopharynx isthmus, this is the palatine tonsil. Posteriorly and superiorly, you will find the pharyngeal tonsil. Laterally and superiorly, you will find the tubal tonsil. Inferiorly, you will find the lingual tonsil. Then I told you that the tonsil is basically bounded anteriorly by platoglossal arch, posteriorly by palatopharyngeal arch. In the middle, you have a palatine tonsil, which is basically in the tonsillar fossa or palatine fossa, which is triangular in shape. Now, it has two surfaces, two borders, and two poles. Now, talking about the two surfaces, it has a medial surface and a lateral surface. Then it has an interior surface and an interior border and a posterior border, and it has a superior pole and an inferior pole. Now, posteriorly, this is very loosely attached with the posterior wall of the